One of the most important things that you can do when you open a commercial space is to focus on your client experience. I keep saying this, and your local partnerships. Look at the businesses around you, go and visit them. Welcome to the Expansion Code. I'm Heather, and I could not be more excited to finally launch this podcast. This is the space where we dive into all things business, growth, leadership, and team expansion. I am really passionate about building something bigger than myself, sharing knowledge, and creating opportunities for others to thrive. I started solo and now I lead a team of over 50. So trust me, I know the highs and the challenges and the incredible moments that come with scaling a business. Throughout this podcast, I'll be sharing insights, strategies, and conversations with some truly incredible guests. We are going to cover everything from marketing and leadership to mindset shifts and business expansion. So my goal is to give you real actionable takeaways that you can apply to your own journey. Let's dive in, learn together, and unlock what's next. Welcome to the Expansion Code. Welcome back to another episode of the Expansion Code with Heather Dick. That's me, your host. Today, we are going to talk about commercial buildouts. Now, I understand that this lights up zero people's fire, but I am so passionate about this topic. I don't know if it's that it has affected my business so much in positive and negative ways. I don't know if it's that I've done it so many times, but man, I just think this topic is so interesting. And especially if you're scaling your business from a home-based business to a commercial space, you need to know this information. And you need to have someone beside you that is experienced in building a commercial space. Now, I will preface this. I'm no contractor, okay? I'm also not a lawyer and I'm not an accountant. But I do have experience building out commercial spaces, multiple different sizes and different expansions. So, I've done it all when it comes to the beauty and wellness industry. Today, I want to discuss what you should spend your money on and where you should save it, because this is a really interesting topic, especially when it comes to someone that is brand new to this world. So, we're going to start off with the non negotiables because we'll get the ugly, annoying stuff out of the way. But this is where you can lose so much money. This is where your budget gets doubled. This is where contracts come across things that are unforeseen. And so I always say, if your contractor has given you a budget, let's say your budget is $150,000, you can plan to double it. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but there are so many things, especially when you're dealing with older businesses or older buildings. And just different types of build outs, things are unforeseen, just like building a house and timelines. Oh boy, don't get me started. Okay, so the non negotiables we're going to start off with. Obviously, we know everything that has to do with like lease negotiations, legal fees, permits and licensing, inspections. A lot of people don't understand that you have to pay for inspections depending on where you are in the world. So whether that's a county or a city, they will be charging for your inspections. And if you fail your inspection, I think it's 2 times. It just depends on their rules, but where we are, it's if you fail 2 times, then you have to repay. So it's really important that you get all of your information from these inspections. And you have to do these inspections before you start, lots of times, in the middle, and then at the end for a final occupancy. Business insurance is also something. Do not skimp on this, okay? Obviously, I'm not a really like fear-driven person. So my innate feeling when it comes to buying something for insurance, like fire, theft, all that stuff, is like, nothing bad's going to happen. But let me tell you, bad things do happen. Okay. And so you want to be prepared for anything. And you would never want to be stuck in a situation where there was a fire. And because you cheaped out, your deductibles now $10,000 or whatever. I mean, those are, again, I'm not an insurance adjuster, but I just, if I have any advice for someone opening a commercial space, it's to do that. Don't cheap out on these things. Your lease negotiations, you're going to want to have a realtor with you hands down, no matter what. Their job is to read these contracts. Their job is to get you the best price possible. Do your research on your realtors as well. So get referrals from people. Anyone that's used a realtor in the past and has a great experience, that's usually a good tell that you're in good hands. Commercial build outs are very different than purchasing a house. You're not just purchasing you're not getting a lease for $500,000. You're paying by the square foot. And then you also have op costs depending on where you are. The states is different. But these are all things you need to take into consideration. And when you're taking on a new commercial space, it's not just taking on a lease, it's taking on everything else that comes with this space. Okay. Um, Legal fees are usually like $1,500. I'm actually going to get a resource for everyone. And I'll link it in the bio here for you to just to kind of like a checklist and something you can plan for. So your infrastructure and your essential build out aspects. So this is going to be your contractors, plumbing, electrical, HVAC. Obviously, all of those things need to happen for you to create the space that it is ideal for you to work in. I would highly recommend you get a general contractor that specializes in commercial build outs, not someone that does residential build outs. And he can oversee your contractors if you don't hire a consultant like myself. Because they need to know timelines. And a lot of times what happens is these contractors will wait on another person and they're not going to do electrical until they do whatever. And it can hold things up. So make sure that you've got your general contractor that has given you a fair price, that you have had referrals to work with, and will keep everything intact and running on time. Um, Another thing we don't think about, because if we're going from a home-based business to a commercial space, is your safety systems and fire alarms. So lots of these commercial spaces require it to be sprinklered throughout, and that is not a small bill if it is not already sprinklered. If it is already sprinklered and you're adding walls and changing the interior floor plan of the space, you will have to move those sprinklers according to code. And if you're working with a commercial contractor, they'll know the code, but also it's important that you hire someone specifically for fire suppression systems because it's what they do. Something like that can cost, your whole build out it is all dependent on your space, what you're doing to it, how move-in ready it is. If it's a turnkey space and you're just doing like cosmetic stuff for that's you have won the lottery. If it's a completely new building and you're creating even, down to like floors, subfloor, it can be extensive. So, do your research before you get into this and understand how much the build out is actually going to cost you. Are you going to be taking out a loan for this? Do you have cash stored away? If you do have cash, how much cash do you have compared to your budget? Because, like I said, things are always going to come up. Even if you have a general contractor or a consultant of some sort, there's always things that come up that you weren't expecting. Um, Even something like the doors you wanted are 6 months away and you can either pay X amount of dollars for shipping. There's just so many variables that can affect your timeline and your bottom line. And the next part that we're going to talk about is the smart investments. And this is like the real fun stuff. This is where you can gain value for your clients in your space and not just boring plumbing and electrical, because someone doesn't really see a client is not going to see the value in having a plug-in right next to the sink, for instance, or right where a treatment bed would be. But who would have value in that is your potential tenant or your potential contractor or your potential staff member. So when you are thinking about the floor plan of the space, think about working in that space as well. And I've certainly been guilty of cutting corners where I shouldn't have. And, for instance, when we first built Blush, the commercial space, and we were building the treatment rooms, I was on the strictest budget ever. And we didn't soundproof the treatment rooms because it was like, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. And, I don't have the extra money for the insulation and whatnot. Well, it turns out after the fact, after everyone was working in the space, I was actually getting a treatment in one of the rooms. And next to the room I was in, was a tattoo artist, and he was blasting his music, and which is great. I mean, I want you to treat this space as yours. And also it's very common for tattoo artists to play music while they're tattooing. But I was supposed to be having a relaxation facial. And so I was like, is it always this loud in here? And Katie, my contractor, she's like, mm-hmm, it's always this loud. And so at that moment, it was like, damn it. If I would have just spent the extra $2,000 at that time, I would have insulated these rooms properly, soundproof them, put dampers in the HVAC system or HVAC ducts, all of that kind of stuff. And I would have prevented this issue. Now we've been open for a year and a half, and I'm going to have to go back into these treatment rooms and soundproof them as much as possible. And I can't even do it as best as I could, because really I should be putting new insulation in between the walls, and soundproofing that way. We just had to try to soundproof through the HVAC ducts because that's where a lot of sound travels. And so, I paid, I think, the HVAC guy $3,500. I displaced all of the contractors because then I was having to get into their rooms. The HVAC guy was as clean as possible, but like messy. And, you know, it's just, it was one of those things that the next time I did an expansion and the next time I built out, it was like, don't cheap out on things that are going to bring value to your staff members, your contractors, and your clients' experience. Yeah. Okay. So the smart investments, these are things that, will really build your customer experience and your team experience. And they are things that I really don't think that you should, I'm using air quotes, cheap out on. Now, you can do things that look really nice on a budget. So please don't think that you have to have super, super expensive hardware, for instance, because only a certain type of person would notice that. But things that you shouldn't cheap out on. All right. Signage and your storefront appeal. There's different levels of commercial spaces out there. So depending on where you are, I'm just going to call it A, B, C, D. So A location is something like a McDonald's, a 7-Eleven, something that is right on the corner that people can see. And the minute they see it, they can get easy access to it. So that's an A location. You're going to be paying prime dollars for those locations. Easy signage, you're right on a main drag, you don't have to struggle to get people to see your space. There's a B location, which is going to be something just off a main drag. So that's something like where Blush and Society is. It's just off a main drag. It's just a block in. So you can still see our business from the main drag, but it's not right on a main fairway. And, the price reflects that. C and D locations are going to be like your industrial flex space. Things are back in the corner. No one really needs to go there. It's a destination location. So, someone that doesn't rely on walk-ins, someone that doesn't rely on signage and visibility. If you have a beauty med spa wellness space, I highly recommend, if you can, signing a lease somewhere that you can get good visibility on, whether that's in a business park that is like yours. So maybe other retail stores, restaurants, higher traffic, or something that just people frequent on a regular basis. The minute that Blush opened and we put our huge sign on the glass in the front, it's 2 stories, it's all glass, it's beautiful. And we put our huge pink Blush sign. I had people calling right away. Hey, what is this Blush? I was at, and it's a master glass next to us. Master glass is like windshields and stuff for cars, but high traffic. And then, there's a psychology center, there's a bunch of different things, another hair salon, like it's a cool, diverse area. But the minute that we put those signs up, I had people calling. Now, also, I went from my home business to this. I had never had anyone call me because of our sign. So first of all, I felt very, very smart at that moment that I invested in a big sign that people could see. Now, it probably could have been a little bit better in the sense of light up at nighttime. In Canada, where we are, we have a lot of night, a lot of dark because of winter. So that's something that I'm looking at adjusting as we go on. But I tell you what, my friends, that decal on the front of Blush was $385. And if you Google us, you'll see that it spans the whole front of the building. It's big, pink, it's very hard to miss, and it was an incredible investment. I mean, $380, come on, like that's nothing. I'll give you an example. The sign for Society next door with my new expansion where the gym and chiro and, the medical services are, the sign was $3,000 and it's aluminum and it sits on top of the awning and it's metal. It doesn't stand out nearly as much. Um, but that's what I had to work with. So, there's varying levels of signage. Obviously, you can get quotes for that, but invest in that. It's very important that people can find your space. Think about going somewhere and you can't find it and you get frustrated. And by the time you find it, you're like, oh my God, that was insanely frustrating trying to find your space. So just think about the client experience there. Um, Interior design that aligns with your brand. So you want to have cohesion. You want to have a space that feels like you or feels like your brand and your culture when people walk in. Um, it's really easy to kind of go all over the place. And especially if you have a larger space, you have one area that feels, let's say it feels calm and serene and warm and welcoming. And then you have another area that's like really loud and it's got vibrant prints and bright colors. Unless it's your brand to have a bunch of different areas within it, it's important to try to keep some cohesion. So, for instance, in the studio, the Blush studio, not Society, I had hand painted murals on the wall. They're tropical. I'm a very like summer vibey kind of person. I frequent Maui all the time. And so I wanted to bring that to the space. We even have bummer free zone on our door. And so that continues throughout the whole space, even in the spa area. And what we did in the spa is we just took those tropical vibes, but we muted it down, have a little bit warmer tones. And, I'm no interior designer, so please don't think that I'm acting like a know it all. I don't. I'm just giving you examples. It's cohesive throughout the space. You want to know that when you're in one space, it is giving the same vibes, even if you're offering different services throughout. You're going to need to do some research on that because brand and culture and all of that, it's intricate. So, brainstorm, do some like journaling, train of thought thinking, um, visions, do some work on that. The next is furniture and decor and key equipment. So you want to make a list of the equipment that you need in order to operate. So if you're running a med spa, are you offering laser treatments? Do you need a steamer for the face? Do you need, if you're doing nails, all of these are your professions. I don't need to list what you need. But you need to put that in your budget because a lot of times we kind of forget about those things. We forget about couches, we forget about seating areas, coat racks. That stuff adds up, you guys. And I'm a huge fan of repurposing things. So I don't need to have a brand new couch for people to annihilate in 2 years. And, our place is a very kid friendly place. So like kids are around all the time and they spill. Blessings. And so it just, why would I purchase a brand new couch when I could get one on Facebook Marketplace for a fraction of the cost? And it's something that I can just pass on to someone else. So these are things that you want to think about. Now, if your brand is very luxury, high end, if your prices reflect that, you're going to want your furniture to reflect that. And therefore, you need to up your budget. Love that for you. But again, it's all, you know, your prices and your experience should all be one. You can't have a space that is charging top high end prices and you have dirty old carpets in your space, gross ass curtains, the bed that you're offering treatments on is crickety and it's rock hard. You just can't do that. And I see it all the time. It's these things are so important. And if we just tighten up our belts a little bit, tighten our spending belt, look at where we're leaking costs and claw some back and get a nice treatment bed. Maybe upgrade your curtains, upgrade your hardware on your cabinets, those kind of things that make a big difference. Um, you will have people very, very willing to pay your high end prices. Also, service that certainly is the number one thing. But, you know, you just have to think about it from a client's point of view, always, always. The next thing, which I didn't really have to do a ton of because we went from my home based business, I had a team of 25 in my house already. It was crazy. Um, but if you are going from like a solo business to a commercial space and you're hiring a team, is you need to invest in your team. You need to invest in training. You need to invest in having operating systems, manuals, welcome videos, everything that you could think of when it comes to running your space, being in the space. It needs to be written down and it needs to be very clear. Okay, we need to take a little break because, shocker, this podcast is brought to you by my flagship company, Blush, and I need to give a shout out. So, not only does Blush sponsor my lavish lifestyle, it also sponsors this podcast. Shouts. If you know me, you know that I do not play around when it comes to beauty and self care, and that's why Blush is your one stop shop for looking and feeling your best. We genuinely do it all: hair, makeup, nails, massage, tattoo, medi spa. Basically, if it makes you feel like a goddess, we probably offer it. So, whether you're looking for a fresh balayage or a relaxing massage or a little of that I woke up like this glow, we've got the experts to make it happen. Think of it as self care, but with a little extra love, sunshine, and family. And actually, with our most recent expansion, we now have a private gym, physiotherapy, chiropractic services, and a lot more to help your body. So, if you are ready to treat yourself, book an appointment at Blush Artistry because let's be honest, life's too short for bad hair and uneven eyeliner. You can find us at blush-artistry.ca or over on Instagram at blushartistrymua. Back to the episode. A mistake that I made with Blush when we first opened the commercial spaces, I had a girl that was kind of like a floater, like she was kind of like my catch-all. She was great. Um, and when we opened Blush, I didn't change her expectations and I didn't change her duties. And she was kind of like, I felt like she wasn't doing enough, but I had never set clear expectations on her. I have a bad habit of being a little too hands off sometimes. And so, you know, it ended up that the work relationship failed because I didn't set her up for success. She felt like she was getting, kind of set up for failure, and it fizzled. I learned from that experience. I created a manual step by step by step, even stuff that I don't have people do, because you never know. One day someone might have to take over your company like this at the drop of a hat. And if you don't have systems set in place of how to run your company, it's doomed to fail. And you don't want that. You worked really hard on your business. And so having training programs to ensure consistency and excellence within your team is top notch. Think about Starbucks. I always use this as an example because Starbucks has done a great job at this. It's consistent no matter where you go. They have smiles on their faces. They always write your name on the cups incorrectly. It's almost like they're trained to write your name wrong, but it's consistent and they do it. Um, so think about that when you're doing your training with your team, because you're training your team to treat your clients, and your clients are the ones that are paying your bills. And if your client has the absolute best experience they could have ever asked for, and their expectations are completely exceeded, you've done your job. That client will come back. They're going to refer you to their friends, and they're going to be your loudest billboard. And in my opinion, that is the best investment when it comes to marketing, is to invest in your clients and their satisfaction and their experience within your business. Wow, that was inspiring. Okay, so which brings me to marketing. These are things that you need to think about when it comes to having a new space. Do you already have a website and an online presence? Do you need to ramp this up? Do you maybe need to get a new website to withstand the new business that you're going to be doing? I think it's really important that we plan a launch to our current clients. And build up excitement. What I did with Blush was super fun. So I didn't tell anyone that I was getting a space other than, my close friends. We had the space and I called a team meeting, and keep in mind there's 25 of us, and I was like, "Listen, it's mandatory. You need to be at this team meeting. I'm sorry. I know I don't normally do this. It was a Sunday or whatever day it was." I was like, "We're gonna meet in my friend's space because I don't have enough room for everyone in the house to have 25 of you. So my friend's gonna lend me their space." Cheeky, cheeky. And so we walk into the space, and everyone's like, kind of like, they didn't think anything of it, right? I think a couple of the OG girls were like, "She for sure bought this place." Um, but at the same time, I had a videographer with me throughout the whole process. So the videographer would stop in and she would get some videos of the contractors working. They would get some videos of me doing things, of Cameron, my boyfriend. And so we used that as marketing material when we opened the space. And she recorded me in the empty space. And then once it was done, I'm not rewriting the history here. It's like this has been done so many times. But it was huge, and people love a good produced video because it's intentional. It looks like you've spent money on it, you have purpose behind it, and it went a long way. So prepare your clients, create build up. If you know anything about marketing, you know that you can't just have an idea and launch it. You need to prepare people to spend on your product or your service or your new space. And you need to build excitement. You need people to be excited for you. A grand opening event is a great idea. You could have, depending on your space, of course, and the size, you could have a walk-in grand opening event. So like from 1 to 5, you could, the sky is the limit when it comes to grand opening events. You can have collaborative businesses come in and create more buzz for you. So like, oh my gosh, Blush is opening a new space. They're going from a home-based business to a commercial space. I'm going to be there offering blank. This is another business talking, right? And so you're getting other people to promote your business for you. And I would do the same for them. But it's just a great way to get a bunch of people in one space. Offer, the first 20 people that come through the door get a free swag bag and make that swag bag good. I could go on. I could go on. But it's important to think about these things for a grand opening event because you don't just want to open the doors and say, "Okay, come see me now," because you will have your friends and family come, but you want other people than that. You want people to come and purchase your products and buy your services and book you. Um, and then having an ongoing plan for social media and your online presence. I think it's important. We ramp up and we get so excited about the opening of our commercial space. And then we kind of fizzle a lot of times because we're tired. And trust me, I get it. We don't like, I'm not going to lie, with our last expansion, I mean, I spent so much time there that I almost needed to take a break. I need to come back and get excited about it again. And you just want to make sure that you don't do that, especially with your marketing and your online presence, because people will notice that. They'll notice if you're kind of quiet. They'll notice if there's no news coming out. And so you just want to be mindful of being able to keep a consistent pace and hire people. They're going to help you with it. Um, those are the things that I would suggest you spend money on. Okay. So things that it's important. I'm going to dive into things that I think maybe you could save, um, or things you can opt out for. We talked about furniture. Um, that's a perfect example. High end furniture, so here's what I think you should invest on: treatment beds, salon chairs, wash sinks, a chair that your client is going to be sitting in for longer than an hour. These are things that I think that you should be investing in because it creates a nice experience. It's really easy to just kind of forget about the kind of stool that you're purchasing. And honestly, let me talk to you about stools for a second because they are the bane of my existence. I have never found a good makeup stool that looks nice, that isn't $500 a stool, and can be that I can have 10 of them. Um, I had ones that were adjustable that would go up and down. People would fall off them all the time. I had ones that the seat base was not very big. So then people would tip. So then I purchased ones that didn't have the adjustability and they were just stationary. And now my short girls hate them. And they also have this like little lip and it hurts people's legs. Oh my God. I could, I would do anything to get rid of these stools. So if you're listening and you have a good idea or you have a great option for what you use in your studio, please let me know. Because trust me, I've looked. But those are the things you should be spending money on where your clients are experiencing their space. Do you need to have now? This is a personal preference, but your staff room, dude, you don't need to have the highest end in there. If you're going to cut costs anywhere, cut costs there. I went to the Restore, which is basically like a secondhand. It's like a non for well, anyways, whatever. Habitat for Humanity, it's called. Um, and I got a wooden table and some chairs, and that's what they sit on. Um, if they even sit back there, we hyper focus on things that we probably shouldn't. But where your clients are sitting for longer than an hour, it's important to, or laying down, it's important to invest in that. And you can cut costs otherwise and other places. Premium equipment that you need, but you don't need it for the launch. It's important to remember that you don't need everything right now. So if you aren't offering a service or you don't have anyone to offer that service, I'm going to use laser as an example because those machines are pricey. Um, let's say your goal is to have a laser tech in there in the next 6 months to a year. Bro, wait. First of all, trends change so fast with laser. Second, you don't want to be paying any more on leases or rent or anything longer than you have to. So just hold up and invest when you need to. It's okay to hire someone and say, I got to get a machine for you. Like you can roll with the punches a little bit. Inventory is really important, and supplies. So I made this mistake when I first opened my home business, my very first home business. Um, oh gosh, 12 years ago. I had the best intention of selling so much makeup and so many makeup brushes. And my friends, it sat forever. I didn't know how to market it. I didn't know how to sell it properly. I wasn't very good at making sure clients knew I had it. And so, I mean, I probably could have moved it if I refined my systems a little bit, but I didn't need that much. So, a rule of thumb, if you're going to have retail products, and you have to carry one of each in the line. I'm going to use hair care as an example here because lots of hairlines, you have to carry every single product in the line. Carry one, carry two. It's okay if you run out and you have to call a client when it's back in. And it's death by a thousand cuts. I say this all the time. That product costs you $20, but times that by 80. That's a lot. Math is hard, so I'm not going to say it. I think it's like $1,600, but it adds up. And maybe your rent is 2,000. So these are huge investments that you're having to make right off the hop. Budget for it and just be smart and be realistic about how much you actually need at the beginning. A good thing is also you can establish relationships with reps in different lines that are going to kind of like throw you a pass. So they'll call you the minute that they have a really good promotion on products that you carry. So you can take advantage of like a buy one, get one, that kind of thing. So it's important to build those relationships along the way as well. If you're going to have a retail manager, which I highly recommend you do if you can, let them be their job to monitor the retail and create those relationships because you're busy, my friends, you're busy. The last thing comes to marketing and branding. So let me gather my thoughts. A grand opening product or a grand opening event, sorry, super important. Spend your money on it. Doing a ton of high paid advertisement before you open, probably not the smartest because you're going to need that big boost after you open and you're starting to feel that fizzle. So once you've opened your doors, everyone's excited. Now probably isn't the time that you need that high paid advertising, that you're not going to do like a bunch of Instagram and Facebook ads. You can kind of lay off that extra spending on that and just rely on organic word of mouth at first. Once you start to fizzle and you're like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I feel like all I've been doing is I'm a swimming duck and I feel like I'm drowning. Hit those ads, man. That's when you start investing. You feel like you're finally clawing your way back. You've been open for a few months. Hopefully, you're making money or at least not going further in debt. And now is the time that you can invest those things. And One of the most important things that you can do when you open a commercial space is to focus on your client experience. I keep saying this, and your local partnerships. Look at the businesses around you. Go and visit them. Say, hey, I'm Heather. I own Blush just around the corner. We just opened a gym at Society. We're going to have a grand opening event. We're so excited. Please come down, create some flyers, hit the pavement, get people excited about your business because they will feed off of your excitement and they're going to be like, oh my God, she seems so excited about her business. I'm going to support her little business. I'm going to go buy some jewelry from her. I'm going to go get my nails done, whatever it is, because also chances are really good the person that you're walking into, they were where you are at one point. They know how hard it is to open a business. They know how hard it is to hustle, and they'll be more than happy to support you. And what's the worst that happened? They don't show up. Big whoop. Um, Rely on your people, create that network, and make sure that you give back to them as well. So, promote them on all of your advertising for your grand opening events. Make sure that you regularly tell your clients about them. I'm going to use a soup and sandwich shop around the corner, for example. I will regularly purchase lunch for our staff. From there, I will use them in our grand opening for the gym. We will use them for like Christmas time and getting grand opening things. We'll post them on our Instagram. It's just a collaboration of businesses getting together. It's a soup and sandwich shop. We're a hair and makeup personal services place. We have nothing to do with each other except for the fact that we both have hair and we both like sandwiches. So I hope this episode was valuable to you. Like I said, I'm going to link some free resources, something just like a checklist for you when you're opening your space, because it can be really overwhelming. And just having a nice little checklist that you can even look at before you sign a lease so you can know what you're getting into. It's very helpful. Or you can hire me as your consultant and I'll be your bestie along the way. And I'll take all the brunt for you because trust me, my friend, I've done it before. And apparently I'm a sucker for punishment. So if you found this episode valuable, let me know. If you ever want me to cover a different topic on commercial build-outs, hit me in the comments, DMs, reviews, you know the drill. Have an awesome day. I'll talk to you soon. All right, another episode bites the dust. If you loved this conversation as much as I did, don't forget to hit follow, leave a review, or even send it to a friend you think would enjoy it. And because I like to keep things fun, we're always running giveaways with our amazing guests. So make sure to check with the show notes, our Instagram page, get in on the details on how to get the free stuff because it's free and fun. And who doesn't like that? Another little disclaimer, while I love sharing advice and business wisdom, I am not your lawyer, I'm not your accountant, and I'm not your fairy godmother. If you do want to be best friends, though, you can hit me up. Everything on this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only, so no lawsuits, okay? Thank you for hanging out with me today. If you'd like to hang out more, you can find me on Instagram at I am Heather Dick and at the Expansion Code. And all of our free resources and consulting packages are on the website, www.theexpansioncode.ca. I appreciate you being here more than you know. I will see you next time.